Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about the same thing that I was talking about in the last video. I was a little short for time last time. Well, I guess today's not any different because I am a little bit cramped for time. I may have to run here. I'm assuming an hour or less. I was trying to figure out this thing about the volume, and I think I got it to be a little bit louder. I'm just hoping that it's not too loud. Alright, so that is the hope, and hopefully it's not too bad. Last time I was talking about these experiments that have been done in the world of psychology and sociology. Some were early on before some people started putting the brakes on what is considered ethical, right? So some of these experiments, I don't think they're going to be repeated again. But nonetheless, there's some other experiments that have happened in real life without people's consent. So that's just by happenstance. It's just, the things that happen in the world throughout, such as war and unforeseen situations, which it's kind of like a different environment. So that's kind of like the unplanned experiment. One of those is I have not that many people know about it, even in the world of psychology. Well, I guess take that back. Maybe not. Maybe in the world of psychology, but people that are the weekend warriors when it comes to those kind of subjects. That's a little bit different, I guess. I guess you kind of have to go out of your way to find these, or unless somebody points you towards it. But anyways, the reason why I bring this up is because they all somehow, in some way, shape, or form, affect our everyday personality, or the way we behave, or the way we think, or the way we see the world. Last video I was talking about reality testing, right? It's sad to say, but it's something that even though we shouldn't have to talk about reality, if there's such a thing as ultimate truth, unfortunately it is something that we're almost forced to bring up, make sure that we are talking about the same thing when it comes to reality, right? And reality testing or perception, understanding, or misunderstanding. So, last time I spoke about the Osh conformity study / experiment, the Stanford prison experiment, the Milgram shock experiment, and some of the findings. So, I guess I should start with what I was saying earlier. Some of those are probably not going to be repeated again because they were unethical. Oh, there's another one with the Reese monkeys, the Harlow's Reese monkey experiment, where after it was all said and done, after the findings came out, some people were like, that was cruel. What you did was cruel. And those experiments are not going to be repeated, I don't think. Well, at least not in this country again. But the findings, so what did we find? If they were unethical, and we're not going to repeat these experiments, but at least we have the findings. So, based on the findings, what do we find out? Well, that is an interesting question, and I guess it depends on who you ask, or depends on how your takeaway on those studies. So, last time I had prepared halfway prepared somewhat of a PowerPoint slide. Well, today it's not much different, so I'm going to go ahead and transition that. And so that stuff that I mentioned last time, because I didn't have too much time to prepare, and today I guess I have about the same amount of time, but I'm not going to go over the same stuff. So I'm just going to expound on what I mentioned, the takeaway, right? Why do I even care? Why am I bringing this up? Why do I even bother, right? I am a parent, and I am trying to teach my kids the how to, the wada of what I've learned as far as the things that I had to figure out, the things that I had to break away from, right? Those unhealthy coping skills or habits, I guess you might call it, unhealthy coping habits that I had in the past. Before I start mentioning these experiments, I guess I did mention last time about the young baby elephants and how they, circus elephants, and how they were trained about how to stay put using this flimsy rope that wasn't really all that strong, but for a baby elephant's perspective, it was stronger than they were. Even though they tugged and pulled away, tried to break free, they were unable to until they were exhausted to the point of giving up. And they did give up. Once the trainers found out that the baby elephants, their will to break free was done and over with, once that will was broken when it comes to escape, they were trained. And they knew that they could rely on this flimsy rope. So even as adult elephants, when they were strong, adult elephants are strong, they could be led by the flimsy rope. They could tie them to a post with this flimsy rope, and they were not going to even try to escape, because from their perspective, what's the point? I tried it to the point of exhaustion. I know these flimsy ropes are unbreakable, but they never tried again ever, because they had a fixed mindset that they could not break away. There was no other reality to it, but they could. And we are not elephants. We at least have the power of learning from other people's experience, other people's advice. And when I was younger, as a teen, I was a lost hope according to my family. And they were partially right. But like I mentioned earlier, their greeting was, Alex, I want to let you know that we are praying for you. And based on their prayers, based on God's long suffering, and He doesn't give up, even though we are lost causes, right? He died for us while we were still sinners. I guess I should have given a disclosure. I am a Christian. I'm coming from a Christian worldview, and sorry, I guess I should have gave you the warning. If you're not interested in hearing any Christian concepts or ideas, you don't have to listen to this. Click away, and even give it a thumb down. Make a comment whether you dislike this or not, but I should have gave you that heads up beforehand. So also mentioning mental health issues, so if that's not your thing, do click away. That is part of who I am today, I guess. So there you are. So yes, fixed mindset, or the growth mindset, where we can break away from those flimsy ropes that have been keeping us where we have been since childhood, because we didn't know any better. So, all right. Does all this apply to me from the stuff that we have learned from psychology and sociology, mainly from those experiments, the findings, the takeaways? So I guess I should click on the next slide. So the Milgram shock experiment, that one is basically has to do with the power of influence from an authority figure, right? Where the subject, I think they were recruited from at least a bachelor's or above. I think they might have been graduate students that pertain to this study. Maybe they were even PhD students, and they were giving, or maybe I'm confusing this with the Stanford prison experiment. But either way, so these subjects, they were the shock experiment. They were giving suggestions as far as what they were going to do. They were going to apply shock voltages to another person who was, are you ready for this? an actor, a paid actor. They were going to pretend that they were going to be shocked by the subject. So the subject was in the dark. The experimenter, the person in psychology, knew what they were doing. The paid actor knew what they were doing, but the subject was in the dark. And they were supposed to be testing something about, I forget the specifics, but something like if you get the answer wrong, you're going to be given a shock to make you give the right answer. So to emphasize that, oh yeah, I need to do good in this study, or to my answers. But anyways, the subject kept increasing the voltage more and more, and obviously the paid actor would scream louder and louder in agony, acting as in agony. But the subject did not know. And long story short, some subjects kept going simply because the experimenter, the clinician, the person in the white coat said, we must keep going, it's part of the test, and kept shocking. Screaming was the actor, right? The voice of agony, until the point of lethality. And that is one of the takeaways, that some people will do as they're told, even kill people, just because someone in the white lab coat says, we must keep going. So at what point do you say, you know what, this goes against my values, this goes against my morals, this goes against my beliefs, this goes against my perception, my conscience of right and wrong, whatever you want to call it, right? Some people had no filter, I guess. I don't know. What are your takeaways? Or I don't know if you're going to look into it or not. And you don't have to if you don't want to. These are just suggestions. But anyway, some of these takeaways are like, wow, some people will do as they're told no matter what. And some people have used this explanation to say, well, I guess you can see why some people in the Nazi soldiers, because there was millions of people involved in these atrocities, why they did the unthinkable, because somebody in authority says, we have to, those are the orders. I have my orders, you have your orders, we must keep going, to the point of, atrocities, right? But then again, in the experiment, there was no guns involved. There was no nothing. It's just a guy in a coat or a woman in a coat, whomever they were, saying, we must keep going. The Stanford prison experiment had to be, as a matter of fact, they didn't finish the experiment because things got so out of hand, and I think they were minimum graduate students performing this experiment, where they were given the role of either prison guard or the prisoners, and things went sideways. So one of the takeaways, as far as I understand the findings, is that given a role, so whatever your role is, I'm sure you have a job or a career or whatever, or maybe you're in pursuit, maybe you right now are a student, maybe you're pursuing your bachelor's or your master's or your PhD or whatever, maybe you're still in high school. Whatever your role is, you have a role. And so I guess the takeaway is, how much influence does these roles take hold of you, overpower you, if that is such a thing, but influence you to the point where you end up doing stuff that goes against other people's, goes too far. I guess that's what I'll summarize. The experiment had to be stopped because things got so far out of hand, and these things are somewhat surprising and shocking, so I'm not going to disclose. This is not that kind of video. I'm not here to do that. I'm just here to try to show what I found as far as the why we are who we are. Sometimes when we don't even know why we do the things we do, right? It goes back to the reality testing. So the things that I said, I don't know if I said it too quick or whatnot. When I said that I do come from a broken home, I did experience some, I don't know, it was not your typical upbringing. My mom did lose her, she did have a breakdown, and she ended up going into tangential paranoid delusions nonstop for hours and hours and hours as I was a teenager. But anyways, I don't know if that, because I said it too fast, I don't know if it almost sounded like I didn't, instead of I said I did have. But anyways, I just want to make sure I disclose that. I did experience that. I wish it wasn't. Wish I could forget some of that stuff. But anyways, it has affected who I am today. And I am trying to figure out the why. Trying to, remember, break free from that flimsy, invisible rope that affects my whatever you want to call it, right? The psyche, the soul, the spirit, whether you're coming from a psychological atheist, right, or from a Christian perspective or whatnot. The Romanian orphanage, this is the neglect from the turmoil, the war, too many orphans, not enough money, not enough caretakers, that babies got neglected, they were crying, they were, you name it. I don't want to, because it is shocking. So basically what happens when you get neglected as a baby and you just cannot cope, it just messes with your personality, sometimes permanently. So I don't want to get into the details because they are gory and there are, anyways, too much. So I just mentioned this briefly, and if you have a weak stomach, or if you're not strong when it comes to being who you are, I don't even go there. But anyways, this to bring up as far as whenever we start dealing or studying or experiencing, so if you have a family member, or maybe if you are having some problems, I guess, I am an advocate of mental health treatment, right? When it comes to that, there's a difference of spiritual help and professional psychological help. So DBT, CBT, whatever it is, find a good therapist. I don't think you should do this alone. There's a lot to undo that, in my opinion, has to come from outside of you. So anyways, let me just go to the next slide. And let's see, this here, the Reese monkeys. So this thing that we have determined that was unethical as far as the Reese monkeys, because I guess it said that these Reese monkeys were affected permanently from the torment that they were forced on them, with this, as far as being frightened and having to cope and see how they would deal with this anxiety, given they were isolated completely from their peers, even from their monkey mama. So they were giving just a wire silhouette of a wire mama, I guess, what you can call a monkey mama. They gave the monkeys milk, and another one was just a cloth type of to represent the mama. They did not give the food, right, the milk, but whenever they would freak the monkeys out or scare them, they would run not to the one that was providing them the milk, so not to the wire mama, but to the cloth mama. And granted, it wasn't a real mama, but that's all they had. So that's where the unethical were. They were completely isolated and, in a sense, tortured in a way. I don't know if some people say torture, but it was cruel, I guess, in some way, shape, or form, because they were permanently affected and they could not be integrated into regular social with other monkey societies. So they were completely, permanently messed up, I guess. They could not come back. They could not undo the whatever trauma they experienced. They could not socialize. They were aggressive or just complete mental breakdown, these monkeys. So anyways, I don't think these studies will be repeated again. But so the other thing that we have found out that I don't think is going to be repeated again is, I will try to summarize briefly, and I do apologize because I am cramped for time again. That seems to be the ever case with me, and so limited free time. So when we come to what do we want to be when we grow up, most, at least back in the day, they used to be, I want to be an astronaut, right? Because it was a very hard thing to do, because they would select very few people to go into outer space, and very few people have gone into outer space. So they would select the best of the best of the best, right? The brightest, most qualified persons, because once they were out in space and things went sideways, there was no one else to turn to. You would have to fix the problem yourself. So yes, you have to be good at engineering and math and whatnot. I mean, it was like, yes, you have to be strong, in no shape, no form. So where am I going with this? Okay, so they picked the very best, and then they sent them out to space, and what happened? They were isolated. They no longer had their social support, right? When things went sideways, they went sideways in more ways than one. So they found out that the most qualified people ended up having mental breakdowns because they were completely isolated. So I guess, to summarize, the best way I can, in my point of view from all that, the takeaway is we need people to cope with everyday problems. This world is dark. People are imperfect. Some might even say that people are evil. Some people are evil. If you ask a psychiatrist, psychologist, or someone in that kind of field, a professor in psychology, what are your thoughts about the psychopath? Is there such a thing as a psychopath? Because some will be hesitant to use the word evil, right? And they say, well, yeah, there's a few people that are considered true psychopaths, but they're very few, and I guess they do exist. So there's that. But the ones that are not psychopaths, and the ones that do exhibit some form of personality disorder, whether that be paranoid personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, schizotypal, which is even more rare than all the other ones, schizotypal personality disorder. Now, with some of these personality disorders, like antisocial, they cannot have schizophrenia, and they cannot have like bipolar. So it's specific, like these personalities are very specific. But anyways, the takeaway from what I understand, I could be wrong, I've been wrong many a times, but the takeaway as far as there's always seems to be some kind of neglect, some kind of abuse, some kind of just problematic upbringing where they were toddlers and they just experienced a lot of neglect and torture or pain or some kind of. Anyways, I don't want to go too far into that because I know that's a touchy subject, but somehow that always seems to be the case. And then I mentioned earlier in the video that some people don't have the personality disorders because they have to meet nowadays. Back in the days, they didn't have to, but nowadays they do want to have. You have to meet certain criteria to get that disorder. There are some that don't have that criteria but may have personality traits. And then I said, well, even if we're not talking about personality disorders or even that, just for the everyday folk, then you want to look at the OCEAN's acronym, the big factor 5 of personality. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I know that TLC, I know that you guys are familiar with Jordan Peterson. I know his videos, obviously he's in the world of psychology, so there you go. Most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with the big factor 5 of personality, or maybe some of you have already taken that personality test, so there you are. So yes, some of these things in our childhood, I know for me it is very difficult to talk about all the stuff that I went through because it's just a lot of, I don't want to relive it, I don't want to talk, I don't know, it's just complicated, I guess, and that's why very few people know about it. But then again, here I am sharing some of that stuff, right? But not all, because maybe in person to very close few friends, family, So let's see what's on the next slide. Conformity. So let me back up here. Conformity. So this is the takeaway as far as the. So I'm going to forward fast forward and I'm going to go back. So this here, I don't know if you can see very well, but this is as far as the Osh conformity experiments with paid actors, I might say, everybody's in on it, right? So they would have like 6 paid actors, and this is the test subject sees this is the target goal, okay, this is the line. And they showed various lines where to you and me, it is very obvious, right? It's obviously this is short, so we know what the obvious line is, and there were more than just one slide line comparison. So to the point where it was obvious what the target, what is the reality, right? What is reality? And all the paid actors were paid. They were given an instruction to select the wrong line. So let's say everybody said, oh yeah, all the paid actors said, yeah, line A is the correct one, line A. And the paid actor went last in my bad. All the paid actors, they were in on the experiment. They all selected the wrong one on purpose. That was the instructions they were given. They selected, say, line A as the wrong one, or maybe the longest one, which is just not, this is right. Obviously, it's this. I'm assuming, right? Right, but sometimes they would be selecting the very obvious shorter one or the very obvious longer one. But everyone, right, they all 6 of them would go, yep, line A, line A, line A. And then when it was up to the subject, when it was up to remember, the person in the dark, the one that doesn't know what's going on, hint, hint, as far as reality testing, as far as can we break away from this flimsy rope? When they did not know what's going on, they heard all these people, paid actors I might add, say the wrong stuff. And then, what about you? Which one is the right length? They would also give the wrong answer. Yeah, it's line A. Now, the bigger takeaway is that after they were told that they were all paid actors, and they were all paid to give the wrong answer. So it wasn't A, it wasn't B, on and on again. They even lied again. They even whether they were lying then or lying to themselves, saying, "No, them people lying did not influence me whatsoever." That's what I saw. So there you go. So maybe they were saying that to save face. That's my opinion. Or maybe I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But one thing is for sure: when the person in the lab coat is asking you, tell me your opinion as far as which is the correct length, right? Pick a line. This is the target goal. So this is the one we want to match it to, right? Which one do you select? And when other people select the wrong one, do you say, okay, I know what I know, and I see what I see, and even though these people are saying the wrong things, I'm going to give C as the correct answer. Now, some people did give the right answer. Very few, or maybe I shouldn't say very few. Some did give the correct answer no matter what. Right? But some did not. So when somebody like a professor says, what do you think? And everybody else has been saying something else when it comes to what are your thoughts on religion? What are your thoughts on personality? What are your thoughts on you fill in the blank? And all these people are saying things that you think like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. How long? Month after month after month after month, year after year. So I have a picture here. This is supposed to represent, I don't have the copyrights to like the show, right? So this is, like how many sitcoms do we grow up watching again and again and again? These very famous people. So it goes back to the so some of these experiments, the takeaway as far as someone in authority, like the shock experiment, right? It's not this one, it's the other one where they say keep going, and you do the wrong thing just because someone says no, it's keep going. And then it's funny. Just the other day, PBK did a video on Prime. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He did that video about Taylor Swift, part 1 and part 2, the documentary about, and then it goes back to we're worshiping either the creature or, like the people that are religious, they worship the creator, right? But we're all going to worship somebody, right? We're all going to be influenced and worship somebody or something, whether it's the environment or whether it's a famous actor, famous singer, whatnot. We're going to worship them. We're going to worship the creature, or we're going to worship the creator, in my opinion. So paid actors, they get paid and they read the lines. That's the lines, and whether they believe it or not, it doesn't matter, right? They got to comply, and they all say their lines, and they all give us a perception day in, day out. This sitcom, that sitcom, this movie, that movie, the lyrics to your favorite songs by these very famous, and now I will say prominent influencers, because that is a thing nowadays, right? Where times are changing fast. And how do they shape us? Do we even know that we're being shaped in one way, shape, or form? Right? Again and again and again, we're being influenced, whether we know it or not. We're being led by these flimsy ropes, and we don't even think we can break free. Must we? I guess we don't have to break free. Do we have agency? Must we protect the sacred? Should we tear down the fourth wall? Right, referencing Graham Chris, I think everybody. If somebody's not from the TLC, if some random person ends up seeing this, I don't even know why I'm giving these explanations, because I don't have very many subscribers. This channel is very new, and anyways, but just in case, that's who I'm referencing right now. Grim Grace, PDK, the TLC. So yes, the takeaway. So this was the takeaway from the previous video. The influence of authority, or from very prominent people, people that we, right, when have you seen those videos where I guess just that recent documentary about the Taylor Swift phenomenon, right, where back in the day it was Michael Jackson, then you go before, then it's the Beatles, Elvis, you name it, right? That's the way it goes, right? And then, again, with this new ways of influencing people, like now YouTube and TikTok, right? You name it. Now these influencers, these new philosophers that are, right, and new perceptions on theology in the scriptures, where, you can't trust any of that stuff, blah, blah, right? Poetry, believe them, and not the scriptures. You don't know what you're reading. Let me tell you what to believe, right? My opinion. This is just my opinion. My favorite theologian is still the Apostle Paul. Are there new Bible scholars? Yes, they're new. And even with the PhD, yeah, there's new ones, but very few. I am skeptical, and the Peruvians, I always mispronounce that name, right? When when the Apostle Paul, they were checking to see if Paul was trying to deceive him as well. So there you are. Some of TLC knows of Michael Heiser and his work. I am a big fan of Michael Heiser's, such a great loss when he passed away. I've been going to his old stuff again, and man, his podcast and his books, they were so, and all those PhDs that he recommended and all those other books and his podcast that he recommended, those are, and since I'm here, might as well go on to as far as who has influenced me. So why do I see the way things, what I see, and why am I, I do say that there's some equilibrium that we must all each, in my opinion, try to do. Too much skepticism is not good, in my opinion. Too much optimism is not the most preferred. So, as far as the people that have influenced me, so right when I started to wanting to teach my kid, because I come from a Catholic background, like I mentioned earlier in my other video. Catholic, the whole confirmation thing, got married in the Catholic Church, did baptize my first kid. But when he was, already learning to talk, and we were going to teach him Spanish, but he ended up having a speech delay. We had to take him to speech therapy, and we're like, well, it has to be English, because we were talking to him in sign language. He was communicating to us in sign language, so we're like, well, there goes that whole bilingual thing. He is third generation from mom's. I was brought here. I mentioned, if you want to hear a little bit more on that, that's on my previous video. I came here to the States around age of 8 or 9-ish, maybe 9-ish. So yeah, English is my second language. So yes, when I was trying to teach my kid, when it was getting to the point, we want to make sure our kid knows the Bible. And me and my wife, we were going to church like good Catholics, right? But when it came to teaching him, it looked like all these, well, not all these, but at least 2 years or so, maybe a year for sure, going to church every day. Sorry, take it back. Going to church as often as we could, at least once a week. Well, let me clarify. Once a week, or at least once every other week, whenever I could, because I've been having these jobs where they make me work on the weekends. So as much as I could, I didn't really know much about the Bible. And then when Protestants kept inviting me to their church, and I was very hesitant, like, why would I go to another church, right? I'm a Catholic, remember? But whenever we had conversations and things about God came up, there was mentioned Scripture, and I didn't know about Scripture, so that was kind of weird, right, for me to be a believer and not know the Scriptures. So, and then when it came time for me to teach my kid the Scripture, I'm going to teach him about, what's in the book of Ephesians again? What's in the book of Corinthians? Oh yeah, there's 2 books of Corinthians, there's 2 books of Timothy. I know, yeah. So, yeah, but that was on me. I should have been reading the Bible myself. And then when I discovered YouTube, right, I ended up actually searching Bible people, pastors and whatnot. I went to people that had taught the Bible line by line, precept upon precept. So if I was reading the book of Ephesians, someone that has taught the book of Ephesians from chapter 1, verse 1, all the way to the very end. And then because I'm fast forwarding here for like a decade, 2 decades almost, maybe it is already 2 decades, from different denominations, different perspectives, because remember, I'm in the process of learning, and I no longer have this fear about, I'm flexible, I'm open to new suggestions, but I will test those suggestions, just FYI. Just because you say it, I'm not going to get suckered into believing that as if that's Scripture. You are a person just like me, therefore you are imperfect just like me, and therefore we both have our shortcomings and our biases and our blind spots. So yes, words are just that, opinions are just that. So I believe of half of what I see and less of what I hear. So just FYI. Reality testing is an ongoing thing for me. I've been searching psychological textbooks, psychology textbooks, sociology textbooks, personality textbooks, videos from professors on this subject, yes. Biblical studies, yes. Have I forgotten much? Yes. That's a downside, bummer. I can outquote you the verses, right. The ideas, yes. Because such is my memory. Oh well. So, the power, influence, and the power of. So, back to where I was going when I was going to teach my kid so that he can be prepared, so he doesn't get easily influenced, or at least some kind of foundation of what is what. And I did want them to consider the whole concept, remember the concept and the idea of we're here because the Creator, for me, right, that's my belief, that's my opinion. It's a good thing I live where I live because we have the freedom of opinion, I have the freedom to say, to believe that in my own world, my own life, in my own house. I believe what I believe. Thank goodness that we have the freedom to believe what we believe. There have been some countries and some generations where if you did not believe, whoever had the power, the structure, the gun, the knife, the sword, you were dealt with, right? Genghis Khan, yeah, he gave you freedom after he conquered you and tortured and raped and whatever he did to all the. I think the people that survived were women and kids, because I think the people, the males that were of fighting age, I think they were all killed. So it's not like oh yeah, it was such a good times when Genghis Khan came over to conquer our land, our little village. So yes, we have the freedom to have our own opinion, to believe what we believe, right or wrong. And I'm telling you this, that we are not elephants. We can break free from old traditions, old point of view, right or wrong, for good or bad. Warning, good or bad. Deconstruct will take you to a dark place if you let go of reality, right? If you want to build a bridge, what's a famous saying? Deviate an inch and lose 1,000 miles, right? Golden Gate Bridge was built on precision, I'm assuming. On sound math, I'm assuming, metaphorically speaking. I do have to plug in my laptop here. I guess, give me 1 second. If you don't mind, give me 1 second. Alright, hopefully, if you happen to be that 1, 2, maybe, well, let me do my wishful thinking, that maybe those 3 people that were listening, that made it this far, hopefully you stayed put. Hopefully that wasn't too long of a delay. Sorry, I guess I should have thought about that. Well, at least my laptop didn't die. So the power, influence, the perception, and what we have to unlearn from, especially if you come from a broken home, because there's a lot of stuff that you, anyways, it makes it that much harder to cope well with a lot of stress and problems. And because remember, this world is a roller coaster, this life is a roller coaster, the human experience is difficult, right? Because times are hard, right? It seems like people are cold or indifferent, but not. That's, remember, if you have black and white thinking, there's a whole lot of gray that you're not seeing. It's hardly ever those two extremes. At least that's what I came to know. But anyway, yes, equilibrium, the whole ocean, the openness, the agreeableness, conscientiousness, the neuroticism, all that kind of good stuff. Anyways, well, at least for me, learning about all that kind of stuff did help me grow, because I needed a lot of help. And even though I was a Christian, even though I was, submitting to Christ, I did ask him for help, because I was just struggling as all get out. So, yeah. Anyways, yes. So, I'm already have been going off rambling, maybe. So, let me bring it back to the influence of celebrity based on the findings from these experiments that were done, that were probably never going to be repeated again, because some of those were considered to be very inappropriate, maybe cruel, maybe unethical. And when it comes to real life, where we found out that when there was too many orphans and not enough people and no money to care for them, and they were neglected, it had profound, permanent, sometimes, depending on if they happened when they were so young, babies, that it was almost irreversible. Not all. So there you are. So that's why I wanted to go ahead and do the, I don't want to call it part 2, but just the takeaways that, because I was going to say yesterday, because last time when I made this video I was short on time, and that's not, today it's the same thing. I am short on time, and I pretty much have to get going here soon. So anyways, if you did happen to see this, thank you for giving it, for I know your time is precious, because not everybody has, we're limited with time. I guess if you're still watching, this is where I say give it a thumbs up. Very new channel, because I haven't really, even though it's an old channel, I haven't really posted much, so it's kind of been collecting dust for a while, and it probably will be for some time, because that's just the way it works, the algorithm. And besides, I'm talking about things that most people are not really interested in, I'm assuming. To me, it's important. You can see why, because it's part of me, it's part of who I am, it's part of who I've become, I'm becoming. So, and I'm a parent, I've been a parent, so I'm trying to find ways to teach my kids all this stuff, and it's not as easy as it sounds, believe it or not. Marriage is not as easy as it sounds, believe it or not. Being a Christian is not as easy as it sounds, believe it or not. Being, that's just how it is, I suppose, at least from my perspective, in my opinion. So, well, I guess I should give the proper outro. So, thank you if you happen to stay this long, if you actually happen to be that person that got to see it. Well, will I be making more content like this? Maybe, maybe not. When? I don't know. Probably in the near future, maybe less than a month, probably, hopefully in less than 2 weeks, maybe. But comments or suggestions as far as what you liked, didn't like, or just say hello. If I'm assuming as if people are gonna be watching it and even staying this long. So anyways, yeah. I guess until next time. If you happen to be that one person, or that's, yes, I think already I'm repeating myself, right? All right. Till next time, let's do something while there's still daylight. Let's work while we still can. All right. I'm Alex. Till next time.